It's the Right Word Awakened, an invigorating engagement of words, spirit, mind, and self. With word stylist Emily, you can call her Claudette Freeman. Reimagine your words, rewrite your power, recreate your life, renew your story, right here on the Right Word Awakened podcast. It's all part of the Right Word Awakened movement, an Emily Claudette Freeman vibe.
Welcome to another edition of the Right Word Awakened podcast. It is me, Claudette Freeman, and as always on this podcast, we're exploring words and phrases and lines and all of that kind of stuff that should have wonderful impact, but often don't. You know, I'm a firm believer that a lot of times words in our lives take on improper definitions or improper emotions, and so we look at them very differently. One of those words for me is dream. So many of us grew up with very negative and pessimistic connotations when it comes to the word dream, and especially as it relates to dreams in the context of having grand vision and big ideas and having this kind of idea that your purpose here on this earth is really larger than life and larger than anything in your immediate atmosphere, in your immediate circles, in your immediate energy. And I believe that that's probably also the case, too, when it comes to those dreams that we engage in our sleep. It's just for some reason we tend to pay more attention to those dreams when we sleep, and not that we shouldn't, because they are powerful spiritual messages there, but we don't do the same for those dreams that relate to our vision. So many times growing up we hear things like, you know, get your head out of the clouds. Dreams don't make money. You're not going to do anything if you just keep dreaming about it. So I wanted to have a series of conversations on that word dreams and on dreaming and on the amazing power of having just childlike wonder when it comes to dreams and dreaming. And the idea for this conversation came about because I was texting, a friend of mine and I were having a text conversation with each other one day, and she texted me this line, and when I read it, I literally just stopped in my tracks and went through this whole moment of reflection and just had all kind of ahas and oh my gods and all of that kind of stuff. And this is what she texted me: dream unreasonably so God can blow your mind. Dream unreasonably so God can blow your mind. So I want to talk a bit today, start the conversation a bit today about how are you dreaming? How are you dreaming? And are you dreaming so unreasonably that you're kind of inviting God to blow your mind? And joining me today for part of this conversation is Florence Gaspard, who is a speaker, a transformation coach, and an author. She's an entrepreneur, a mental health expert, and the author of 2 books, Loving the Incredible Me, and her latest release, I Am Unstoppable, A Guide to Transforming Your Life. She travels domestically and internationally, empowering audience and clients to renew their mindsets and take action towards transforming their lives and businesses, and has done so for over a decade. She holds 2 degrees in psychology and mental health counseling, and provides a series of workshops as director of the Entrepreneurship Program for the Black Professionals Network, a nonprofit serving to expand the platform and help foster the growth of minority businesses by leveraging information, resources, and networks. Thank you so much for taking time to join us today. How are you?
I'm pretty well, Claudette. Thank you for inviting me to be on this platform. That statement you made, it was mind-blowing. I can actually piggyback on that. I heard once in a conference with, can't remember the speaker name at this moment, but it says to ask God to give you things beyond your human understanding. So it kind of aligns with that statement where he blows your mind and you don't even have a way to explain what is happening to you.
But and that's a great starting point, because I think we both can agree that when you hear something like that, it challenges your thoughts. It challenges what you believe about what you dream, about what you dare to do with your life. But can't we also agree that that's a very intimidating thing to say to God, to say to the creator of all things in the universe, okay, here's what I'm dreaming, now take it and blow my mind with it.
Absolutely. And I think that you have to evolve in a more spiritual level to really understand it and also receive it. Because if you're looking at things from a surface level where and it's not going, where we normally say skin deep, but more heart deep, then often it won't manifest into something tangible, or, the faith is not behind it. So you have to get to a point where not only do you, believe in the process that it can happen, but you also got to understand who you are in the presence of God, the reflection of what you were made of. And so if you don't understand that you have the same similar capacity to expand, and that he gives us, the gift, the tools, the hopes, everything that we need in order to attract what he wants us to be, then, guess what? If you really understand who we are, you'll take off like it's nothing. But it's that limitation that we have in a mindset that has kept us in bondage for so long.
So our mindset, then somewhere in our mindset and in our thought processes and our understanding of who we are as divine beings, then we've forgotten that we were actually created to dream, that's part of who we are. Am I kind of following you? Okay. Uh-huh. So then if we've forgotten that we're supposed to dream, that almost sounds like we've lost a very key part of our communication with our spiritual self. If we forget to dream, or we decide that our dreams are not important, then is that a fair way of thinking or of assessing that?
Yeah, either lost or haven't really been developed. Because often, we are a product of course, our environment, in addition to our, genes, etc. However, it's breaking away from the norm. And when you learn to do that and start really creating your own path, and then you have to actually go inside. And when you go inside, then you get more in touch with I am. And then I am is the representation of God, However, often we don't really either take the time or don't have the insight to know that all the answers we often look for is already there, is already inside, given to us. We just have to sharpen those tools, and we have to surround ourselves with like-minded individuals, those who understand that they also have a dream, and collectively we can even dream bigger in that kind of frame of work. So it's like you're mentioning, it's like going spiritually, going deep, asking who am I, what's my purpose, honing on your skills in terms of every part of you, the good, the bad, whatever it is, just knowing to understand what ticks you, what doesn't, what move you, what don't move you, what you like, what you don't like. So knowing yourself inside out, and then knowing what's your name and your name of I am. That means whatever follows I am in your vocabulary will define who you are and how far you go. So I always tell even my clients, it's a really, really powerful statement. And whatever follows that is even more powerful.
So let's take, because you said something in the beginning of your statement, that it's either we've forgotten that form of communication, or we never knew it because of our environment and because of those in our circle. So let's take that group. First. If you've never, if the whole possibility or the whole concept of dreaming and having a dream and then attaching, the I am of who you are to your dreams has never been taught to you or has been disregarded in your environment and in your circle of friends and associates. How do you begin to build that? And is it even important to build that?
Well, because I know with my journey, I always had a vision that I wanted to have a platform where not only that I can live freely and do the things I love, but also help empower others and just find out, like, in a different sense, who am I? And so I didn't really have, like, an exact picture of what it looks like exactly. I had pieces of visions, but not necessarily, like you would say, the final product. But the thing is, I yearned for it. So it led me on a search where I went on a series of finding, just like how, you'll have people, whatever age they are in, life purpose or in a search of finding a greater meaning. So when you're in that point of life, when that little voice that says there's more, then that means that your spirit is ready for that journey. Often we don't know that's what that is. So either dismiss it, ignore it, or don't further explore it. So it keeps us stuck in that same place. And then we get, unsatisfied in life. Sometimes we get angry and this, not motivating in life and never understanding why that is. It's because you fail to give attention to that internal navigational system that God possesses and gives us. It's His way of communicating with us. And we get so bombarded by, like, with our surroundings, people telling you what to do, who to be like, what not to do, especially in a spiritual structure of men, because if you really look at spirituality, it's humongous. And religion is a way of explaining the pieces of spirituality. Right. But often, we get so caught up in the pragmatic of it, like you can't do this or you have to do this or et cetera, that we're really allowing our spiritual self to really develop into a higher space where we can actually understand, wow, I am a really, really important presence in this world. And once we start tapping into that, and I often tell people, you won't necessarily have all the answers up front. It's, you have to move it forward. And then it's like a scavenger hunt. You get pieces as you go along, and they start making sense, and you start putting it together, and then it starts being clear. But if you don't move towards that feeling of unsatisfaction, dissatisfaction, or there's more, where that is what you would call the pebble that is thrown in the water, makes that, settle down, then we tend to lose the sight of that. So because I initially, of course, I had to grow spiritually to really understand the magnitude of following that. But I just knew that I needed something more, and that I didn't want to stay where I'm at. I didn't know where I was going, but I was determined to stay where I was.
Oh, so yes, I know that place. I know that place, but let's take a quick break here, and then we'll come back, because I know that place. We're going to come back and talk about that. We'll be right back on The Right Word Awakened.
We hope you're enjoying the show. The Right Word Awakened, the unconventional defining and analyzing of words, phrases, and personal life stories will return in a moment. When you were young, you'd scribble a story on notebook paper and proudly read it to an audience of stuffed animals. Just like that, you planted the seed of being a published author. Let that vision grow with Pecan Tree Publishing, a self-publishing company designed by authors for authors. Pecan Tree Publishing works with authors in an array of genres, and our inclusive packages featuring editing, printing, publicity, and marketing. Get additional information at www.pecantreebooks.com. Now back to the show to employ reimagined words and stories in the strategic plotting of your life journey. The Right Word Awakened.
Before the break, you were talking about that place where you're not where you want to be, but you're kind of feeling like something's there, And I know that place, and I've hit that place a couple of times, but I have to tell you, I don't think I've ever hit it as profoundly as I did and at one point in 2017. I mean, I hit it so profoundly until I seriously considered just, putting my things in my car and wandering around the United States, just exploring everything and writing at every place that I decided to stop. And I think the only reason I didn't is because I have a son and he's still in school. And I didn't think he would like that. But what I discovered is that need to move was really just something in me saying, there's more, there's bigger. Expand your belief, your dream territory within, as it were. And like you said, when I started to do that need to physically move started to dissipate. Some of it is still there, so I know it's probably a very good time for me to start thinking about, moving around, and really just exploring physically locations and that kind of thing. But the expanding of my dream and my vision and my purpose territory and really looking at those things just begin to revolutionize and really make that need to move very different. And so as I was listening to you speak, I like the fact that you said you had to go on a journey. And I think when we talk about dreams and dreaming, we have to give ourselves not only the permission, but we have to give ourselves the courage to do that. Do we not? We Absolutely. Have to say, I'm okay, I'm strong enough to go on this journey to figure out what this thing is all about. Yes?
Absolutely. Because I recall even hearing a sermon that T.D. Jakes stated that piggybacks on that. Because he would say there's points in your life where, it's not the fact that you won't stay where you are, it's that your spirit won't allow you to stay. So you'll have restless days until you give up and say, okay, enough is enough. I have to get going, But, as habitual creatures, human beings are, that's anything for the most part, So that's why often we'll say on a long-term unhealthy relationship or a job that we hate or whatever the situation is, it has to get to a point where you just can't take it anymore. You're like, right. Not enough minute in this situation that, that helps us to make changes. And so movement is very important when it comes to change, because even if you hear in other speakers like Tony Robbins, et cetera, they allow you to move. Like Lisa Nichols, she'll say when she coaches a client, she was saying, okay, she put her kicks on. She said, okay, we're going to move. We're going to walk around the neighborhood. We're going to do this, because movement creates change. It puts you in a different mindset. So I always tell people, if you want to kill procrastination or to move in, or make some movement, you've got to do any action, whatever that is, that phone call, that letter, that research, whatever it is. You could always start somewhere and do something. And as you do it and make it a habit, then momentum starts building, and then you start seeing traction. And that's how often we create change. Often we try to wait for the mood. No, you gotta strike the match. You gotta strike the mood. And once you strike the mood, then you grow the mood. And then you'll have that fire to continue on, whatever you're working on. So movement plays a lot. So it's definitely, get up and do something. Even in people that, as a therapist, someone reaches out and stated that they're depressed, they're in bed all day or et cetera. Mm-hmm. We're like, okay, let's go. Let's walk. Let's take a walk. We want to get them out the bed. That itself is a triumph, because any movement helps propel you to the next level. And often when we have a dream, we see the big picture, but we neglect to look what's between where we are and where we want to end. The process in between, really, that's where the work starts. This is all the sweats, the tears, everything in between. this is where it happens. And so I would tell, and sometimes the dream, especially if it seems really big to you, you get intimidated, because many people get intimidated by their dreams. Either they haven't seen it done, or or maybe they, of course, lack of trust in oneself, or whatever the circumstances is. And I would tell someone, don't necessarily put all the eggs or focus on the dream itself, but, identify where it's at, and then start working one step closer to it. And when you do that, before you know, when you look up, you hit that mark. But that's just a destination, because then after you realize that dream, you're gonna want to set your next goal. So putting too much focus on the destination, it's not as helpful as is the process that gets you there, because that same process that gets you through the first dream, you're going to use that process to kind of repeat it to the next dream and the next dream, and it kind of like sharpening that tool and the skills and the do's and the don'ts that you have to learn along the way to get you there.
So now, I know that part of what your book deals with is affirmations, and so I want to kind of pose this question: how important or key is it to verbally affirm our dreams as it relates to them, to the manifestation of them?
Oh, it's very important, because we are given senses, the sense to smell, taste, speak, feel, all of that senses. So it's a branch of a sense where you have to speak the things you want. You have to become it before it actualizes, in reality. And so if you can't even mumble the word of what you want, then how you expect to receive it? So part of becoming it is to be like it. So in order to attract it, you got to be in line with that. And so if you can't even speak it or think that you are it, so how can you recognize it when it shows up? You won't be. Or it'd be too intimidated, because often we ask for something, but then when it shows up, we're too scared to pull the trigger.
Exactly. Exactly.
We're not ready for it. We're not ready for it.
I want to talk more about that, but I want to take another quick break and then come back, and we'll see if we have any questions from our studio audience. So let's take a quick break, and then we'll be back with The Right Word Awaken. We are talking about dreams.
Don't you dare move. There's so much more to engage on The Right Word Awakened, an Emily Claudette Freeman vibe. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Right Word Awakened, an Emily Claudette Freeman vibe.
And we are talking with Florence Gaspard, who is an entrepreneur, mental health expert, and a transformation coach. And we are definitely going to have her back for part 2. I can tell you that already. But want to open the phone lines and see if we have any questions from our audience here. And so we'll go with caller number 1. Do we have any questions from you, caller number 1?
My question is to Flo is, everything that you're saying, I can definitely relate to as far as, being stagnant, and then, God kind of like, pushing you out of that realm to, follow your dreams. But what advice would you give, I guess, in a sense, the younger person, like, because sometimes, when we're young, we sometimes tend to feel these things, but we're in unfamiliar territory. So how, channel that into the right direction, especially if we don't have, like, positive guidance, in a sense, we dream big, but at the same time, we don't know which direction to take. And then, based on our environment, we may not have that, surrounding where it will direct us into that. So how do we get into that realm in order to achieve those big dreams and stuff, and to have faith within the Lord?
Well, I guess that's for me. A lot had to do with me changing my environment, changing, the people I was with, et cetera, because I've learned, and you guys probably hear that often, is that, there's if you take your closest 3 to 5 friends and they're not as well progressing, then, then all you guys are in the same level. And so, I grew up in a household where both of my parents had the entrepreneur spirit, but they didn't grow the business sense of where I would like it to be, and so they just made it, but exactly they made it till a certain point, and so I wanted to go and break through that point, and I learned to understand that if I didn't have the model around me, I had to go and search for it, and that's what I did. I started to be in a company of people that I admired, that I wanted to be like in some ways, and ask questions and be mentored. And mentor don't necessarily have to be directly like, you have to meet someone face to face. But I was being mentored through everything. So whether or not I'm hearing a video, I'm listening to an audio, all of that is some type of mentorship. So because I made a decision to say that I didn't want to stay where I was, but even though I didn't have a clear picture, but I did know enough to know that I have to change my environment. And when I started to change my environment, inviting more of what I want and being around the people I wanted to be with, then I started to see some changes there. And so I urge even young audiences to say to be around people you want to be like, because even with my conversation with the younger folks, sometimes, they would say, hey, I want to be a millionaire. And I would say, okay, do you know anybody who is a millionaire that you know personally? No. And then I was like, okay, then try to find one, do research, find out, how the process looks for them. How do they think? It's an entirely different mindset. And then so I led them into a journey of research to say, okay, if you want to be that, you got to go find that and be around that. And then you start understanding the mannerism, the way the decision is being made, how they do certain things, how they don't do certain things. And then because you are in that environment, it's hard not to rub off on you. And then next thing you know, you become in that environment as well. So that would be my take on that.
So another quick question from caller number 2. Caller number 2, you have a question for us?
I think for me, the question I have as far as affirmations, like how do you go about? I know, they say it daily, and I think it's just like, what is the practice as far as affirmation? Like, what are some of the practices or examples that you do as far as affirmations?
Okay. So we have, you confirm your dreams in different ways. So it's not just verbal. Often we hear affirmation and we think, of course, making positive statements within ourselves, which is, yes, part of that. So as for me, my routine, and it's, of course, I have my gym board and it's directly in front of me when I get up. So it keeps me, I guess, focused on what it is I'm doing for, that day, that week, or whatever the situation is. And so by having a few moments just to look over it and visualizing, that itself is affirming my dreams. And then speaking it, because I also write things on the vision board, statements that I say aloud to myself, that it kind of, and then being in the mood to receive that. So I also often tell people, if you say certain things or you do some things and you have this kind of hiccup, that feeling that you don't really believe it, this is when you got to practice it until you don't even have a doubt that can manifest for you. So when you have that little hiccup, it just means that there's certain things you got to work through in order for that to not even be there. And so once you start making it a habit, then start speaking it. So even I use it daily routine. I could be in traffic and I'd be like, okay, you know what, this is going to clear up. And it clears out. Or I can find, or look for parking, around looking for parking and say, okay, I'm going to find parking. and it shows its availability. So it's like you practicing in different ways. You're using it in your daily routine. And once you do that, you start sharpening the tools and skills. And then you're using all your senses to kind of like come together to say, I truly believe that I can have this, whatever this is,
Right. So we're definitely going to have you back for a part 2. But before I let you go really quickly. Tell our listeners where they can connect with you online.
Well, I can be found on FlorenceGaspard.com, my website, and also on social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. And also, if you want to reach out, you can also email me at FlorenceGaspard.com and, Florence@FlorenceGaspard.com.
Awesome. So I always like to close the show with an affirmation, an intention, and a your move, our aim. And so for this episode, our affirmation is, I affirm that my dreams are divinely inspired, divinely purposed, and worthy of all that I am. And our intention is, I intend to dream so unreasonably that God will blow my mind through that very dream. And then our your move for this episode, your take action, is today I will blow the dust off of that long-lost dream and meet with someone to assist in creating its success plan. And as always, we'll make sure that the aim is posted on Facebook the day that the podcast drops. You know you'll get it, and you can always email us to request them at rightwordawakened@eclaudetliterary.com. We will talk to you next time. Thank you so much, Florence Gaspard, for joining us, and we're going to have her back the next episode because I know you've got more questions, and I've got more questions too because things just start to go through my head. So thank you, and we'll talk to you next time.
You've been listening to The Right Word Awakened, an invigorating engagement of words, spirit, mind, and self with word stylist Emily. You can call her E. Claudette Freeman. Want more information? Visit www.eclaudetliterary.com. For sponsor, guest, and other show information, email rightwordawakened@eclaudetliterary.com. Until next time, tell your words to wake up.